Hello there. You're listening to the Box Office Show. I'm Ryan Hill.
And I'm Dylan Johnson. Today we're going to be talking about the box office numbers from last weekend and our box office predictions for this upcoming weekend.
We'll also be talking about the latest provocative film from one of today's most renowned directors, Ari Aster. We're talking about Eddington.
We've got no news for today, so we're going to jump straight into the box office breakdown for July 25th to the 27th. In first place, to nobody's surprise, Fantastic Four: First Steps is debut, making a whopping $117 million domestically. I'll take it. Slightly under Superman, but baby, I'll take it.
It is a solid start for sure, getting well over that 100 million threshold, but it did fall short of Superman. So we'll have to see if that ends up being the case worldwide at the end of their collective runs, but I don't know. It seems like I'm safe and sound with all my picks, so I'm quite happy there. Because Superman still bringing in some money in its third weekend, 24.8 million,
and then after that was Jurassic World Rebirth with 13 million, bringing its domestic total to 300 million.
F1 the movie with 6.3 million,
Smurfs with 5.4 million.
I Know What You Did Last Summer, 5.2 million.
How to Train Your Dragon, 2.9 million.
Eddington with 1.6 million.
Oh, Hi with 1.1 million.
And The Home, 1 million, rounds out the top 10. For our box office predictions, August 1st to the 3rd, we have a few movies coming out. The Bad Guys 2, the sequel to 2022's The Bad Guys animated film. That one in 2022 had 23 million in its opening. Dylan, what do you think the sequel is going to get this time around?
I think it'll hit 18 to 20. I think it'll get a good run and start.
So it'll fall underneath the original.
I believe so.
That would be a bit of a shame for sure. Probably not what they're looking for. I think I'll go 22 million.
Okay.
And who knows? Maybe it'll have a chance. I mean, I guess. No, yeah. I think summer's still around. You know, most schools haven't kicked back in yet. So people should go out. They should get 20 million. And then we have The Naked Gun. Liam Neeson stepping into the role. So what do you think this one is going to get? You watched it.
I did.
In its opening weekend. So
it is fantastic. Everybody should go watch it. It is really, really good. Really, really funny. I'm going to give it 25 to 30 million. I think it'll be...
Really? You think it'll overtake Bad Guys 2?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be number 2 for the weekend. Right behind Fantastic Four.
Yeah, certainly Fantastic Four will come out on top.
Yeah.
I hope it does that much. That would be great.
It'd be awesome. My theater was pretty crowded. We were all enjoying it.
Nice. I'll say 15 million for The Naked Gun.
That would make me really sad.
What about Fantastic Four in its second weekend?
Oh, it's going to get cut right in half, baby. I'm going sub 60. Going 55 maybe at the best.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. We'll have to see what kind of hold it has. Marvel historically, I mean, all superhero films have those hefty drops, more than 60%. So we'll see if Fantastic Four succumbs to that. But yeah, if it's in the 50 million, that would be tremendous for it.
Sure.
In the 40 millions, probably where it's going to land. 45 million, I'll say. All right, let's talk now about Eddington, Ari Aster's newest feature, his fourth. And you were a bigger fan of Beau is Afraid than me. You're a big fan of Midsommar. You showed me that film way back in the day. And then Hereditary. What are your thoughts on that? Are you a big Hereditary guy?
I love Hereditary, not as much as Midsommar. Midsommar is my favorite of his films, but I love Hereditary. I have not seen it in a long time, honestly. I don't think I've seen it since 2020 or 2021, something like that.
Gotcha.
I think when you and I did an Ari Aster director analysis many, many years ago, when those were the only two of his films out, it's probably the last time I watched it. Yeah, that was pre-COVID, I think. It was 2019.
I think so, yeah. Or in the midst of COVID, maybe.
Spencer was on that show. That was when we were still in the booth at UCF. This was before we were a radio show at the time, I think.
Maybe. We'll have to go back and we'll fact check that and see what it was.
Vaguely
But
remember.
yeah, I never watched Hereditary for that episode or even to this day, since I think it'll be too scary. But
Really?
I did watch Midsommar. We watched Bo's Afraid, an episode on it. So it's only fitting that we continue our discussions of Ari Aster and his work. Again, he's definitely one of the most
You did
hyped
see Bo was Afraid. I forgot
current
we did
day.
do an episode on that.
Yes, we did an episode on it.
But
It was only
I
2 years ago,
think
man.
you said many times that you'd be willing to watch a movie that you think is too scary if you think it is artistically relevant. And I think you should watch Hereditary because it's
I
many
don't know if
people
it makes
believe
the
it's
cut.
his best film. You don't think it would be good enough? You don't think
I
you
don't
would
know if
find
it
it?
makes the cut. No.
Why? Is it too scary or is it not artistically relevant enough?
I think probably both. I haven't heard enough of the like artistic merit side of things, um, and I've heard a lot about it being quite scary. So I don't know. I could be convinced maybe, but for now I'm okay with it. I'm okay with leaving that as a blind spot in
Nah,
my
dude, Hereditary is great.
watching of Ari Aster.
We we uh we did the Ari Aster director analysis. February 2020 is when it premiered on our Spotify, and
Yep.
that was right before COVID shut down UCF. So we were indeed in the booth at the time, and it was Spencer and our good friend James
James
Poole.
Poole. Yeah. um, Crazy. So again, yeah, Ari Aster, we've definitely been following him along for the longest time. That's crazy. And even back then, I'm sure we talked about in that episode, he's like him and Robert Eggers, like they are among the big, the class of 2010s directors, Greta Gerwig, Barry Jenkins, like Damien
Mhm.
Chazelle, like this new class of prominent visionary directors.
Yeah,
So it's been interesting to see how his career has been developing. Now we have his fourth film, Eddington. So Bo's Afraid was divisive. Again,
loved it.
I was much more mixed on it than you, but certainly
Loved it.
astounding filmmaking in there, crazy off the wall stuff. I mean, you'll definitely it get some reactions out of you.
Yeah, it does.
Um, and so
Just some of it's
Eddington
thrilling.
we'll see how that continued it, but it definitely went for a more grounded approach here,
Mhm.
doing a modern day Western in COVID times, taking us back to 2020. Um, so, Dylan, what are your initial impressions of Eddington?
It's awesome. It is fantastic. It is so far my favorite movie of the year, but I'm very certain that that will change. I think there are movies that I've read about that I think I'm going to be a bigger fan of as the year progresses. And I am not even quite sure that Eddington could be in the top 10 spot at the end of the year. But so far, compared to everything else that I've seen come out this year, I found it very enjoyable. Obviously, all the heavy hitters that usually make our top 10 come out in the second half of the year, so we're waiting on those. But I thought it was great. I think this might be a little crazy to say, maybe even a little controversial, but I mean, I've seen all four of his movies and some of his short films, and obviously, he's a filmmaker who likes to make the audience uncomfortable. He's
Mm-hmm.
liked to push that boundary quite a bit, and with Bo was Afraid and the Meet the Johnsons especially. I'm not gonna lie, this movie might be the one that made me the most uncomfortable. It would
Really?
felt at times a little too real. I think the scenes with Joaquin Phoenix and his family, with Emma Stone and all of them, made me so uncomfortable to be watching. I don't know. I just don't like their dynamic. I don't like when we're in their house. I don't like all of the like conspiracy things they're saying. I don't like any of the. It just feels crazy to me, and
Mm-hmm.
it makes me like it made my skin itch. It made me very uncomfortable watching those scenes. Like I wanted to get up and leave the theater because I was so uncomfortable.
Wow.
But sat through it, stayed, and loved it. Ryan, your impressions? You're not much of a horror guy. This isn't much of a horror movie.
No,
It's
I
more of
don't.
a.
There's nothing horror about this one. So,
It made me
yeah,
uncomfortable,
yeah, for sure. I mean, he like that
significantly so.
most effective portion of Bo's Afraid was that like first act, that first section where he's like in
Mhm.
that city. And so he does really well with that. Like again, the making you uncomfortable, making you tense, like that sort of thriller bend to his stuff. I think he's very effective at. So yeah, there's nothing like scary. I wasn't worried going into this one at all, and I was intrigued because he's effectively making a political satire, political drama here. So I was curious about that. As you know, I dig that stuff.
Yeah, you do.
Give me all the politics. So I was like, okay, I want to see where this goes, see how he handles all of it. Um,
Mhm.
and on that front, I was very entertained, very intrigued. Like I enjoyed that part. And then there's a switch that happens about halfway through the film, and then that part kind of lost me. That was where,
Really?
yes, and I feel again I haven't seen Hereditary. Maybe at some point, our part two of Aster down the line, 2032, whenever he has more of a filmography, we can do circle back to it. But from Midsommar, Beau's Afraid, and Eddington, I find that before things go off the rails, I'm most engaged actually in the film. And then cult stuff starts happening, or penis monsters in the attic start happening,
Yes.
or what goes
Come
down in
on.
this
You
one,
know
which
it's
is
awesome.
less crazy than all
His
that stuff.
father's a giant penis, man. You know it's awesome. Guys, go watch Beau's Afraid. That movie's great.
His dad is such a dick, bro.
It's just about a guy who needs to come. It's about a guy who has never come in his life and he needs to come. He has giant, big fucking balls and he needs to fucking jizz. And then he kills a woman with his cum.
Yeah.
It's so
Spoilers.
good. It's a great
Uh,
movie.
so, and then in this one, again, it's less crazy off the walls like that when it does do the switch, but it just didn't compel me as much as the rest of it. Like I was like, okay, so this is where we're heading now, and then continually as the stakes ramped up for that, and we got deeper and deeper into it. There's still moments and sequences that are very effective, and we'll talk about some of those. But ultimately, I was just less compelled by it. The spell it had me under in the beginning sort of wore off.
Mhm. So
So
let's
yeah,
jump into that first half. Before that twist happens, it's very much kind of political and making a very strong statement about summer 2020
yeah.
and makes you feel like you're living in the internet. What about that enticed you? What about that appealed to your senses, Ryan, that made you like that part of the movie?
Because I like that this will be a reference point we can come back
Mhm.
to see like just how crazy it was in 2020 in COVID times. Again, all of like the terrible elements that are being showcased there, particularly
Mhm.
with like social media and the isolationism and people just not listening to each other.
Yeah.
Uh, all of that is still the case and is only getting worse with AI. So I don't know if we ever will be able to look back on this and be like, man, that was crazy, but at least we got through it. It just seems like we'll only be trying to persevere through worse and worse iterations of that. But with COVID specifically, like the pandemic part of it, that had just a different feel to it all, like the literal distancing that everyone's doing, the COVID masks, and just the debates that would go on of people of whether they would enter a store or not with a mask, um, in the immediate like judgments and assumptions you can make about somebody based on that, like that almost just immediate snap of the finger. You can know so much about that person where they align, or you think you can based on that. I just think it's great that we have that captured somewhere, and we all lived through it. It's very recent, but and then all that stuff is still on social media. But I like that it's sort of put into a narrative capsule that we can come back and revisit later down the line and be like, yes, this was like pretty spot on for how a lot of COVID was, even though again it has that satirical bend to it. Life has been
Mhm.
crazy, so it's hard to
Yeah.
satirize real life when it's already insane as can be. So I like that element to it. Um, and let me ask you, Dylan.
Yes.
With We have Joe Cross, the sheriff, Joaquin Phoenix, then we have Ted Garcia, Pedro Pascal, um, and you can see where they align sort of already from the jump. But this film is trying to take shots at both sides. It seems like in
Yeah.
different ways.
100%. I think.
What were your thoughts on that? Because my just question about this film, and obviously it's been received kind of divisively thus far.
Mhm.
Um, my question about that is like, on which side of the aisle would you best respond to this film? Like, is it one that can only work if you are someone that leans more to the left? Again, certainly don't think it is most flattering to people on the right, but even still, it does take certain shots that uh, people on the right would be more like, ah, yeah, they get it. There you go. So, what do you think about that? Like, is this a film, like something that deals with such recent politics, this crazy political event, and is trying to depict that? Do you think that there's some level of like the enjoyability factor of it can only come from the extent to which you agree with like the observations that are being made and the jokes that are being made and the pot shots that are being taken at the different political sides here?
Hmm. I think the movie itself, and this is based on everything that Ari Aster said about it and everything that like is my perception of it, is that it is a critique of the era of the internet, and that his point was to make it feel like you are like quite literally in the internet, and how that has affected not only our social landscape but our political landscape. And so I think the people who will enjoy the movie or enjoy aspects of the movie, I don't think it is related to which side of the aisle you're on or how you align politically. I think it has to do with your perception of the internet and how it has affected culture. And if you're able to see that satire within it, regardless of the side you're in, I think that is where the enjoyment comes from, because obviously he's taking shots at both sides. And really what it is it is a tale of how social media and the internet itself has corrupted people's perception of reality. Like everybody has cameras on their phones, not everybody's recording everybody. Everybody's, the left is virtue signaling, the right is appealing to very crazy opinions to get attention. There's commentary on both sides. There's people who are spreading misinformation about gang riots, about they talk about George Floyd in it. They have virtue signaling in relation to George Floyd just to hit on a girl. It is supposed to show the like hypocrisy of the internet being this thing that's supposed to bring us closer together, and really it is dividing us more by showing everything that could possibly exist ever, and then spreading so much information that you can't possibly trust it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Because yeah, I can agree with that. I can see where that comes from in the film for sure. A lot of depictions of the brain rot, doom scrolling that's going on, and
so if you
all of
don't
that.
like it, you just don't get it, man. You don't get the internet. You don't get culture, man.
But I feel like
It's
everyone
not for
kind
you,
of,
man.
because I think everyone agrees with that part. It's just, again, it's like that thing, like
The
echo
problem is
chambers
not about
exist
agreeing.
everywhere.
Yeah, the problem is not about agreeing with it. It's about being able to see past like the satirization of political agendas that you agree with to get to that core message. If you can't get past the satire against your own political party, then this movie isn't for you. You are too ingrained into that belief system that you can't understand the fundamental nature of the message.
Yeah, I think that's part of what it is. Like how susceptible you are
Mm.
to like the echo chambers and algorithms that you're getting
Yes,
fed. I think
absolutely.
it can affect that for sure. Um, but that being said, I also wonder again, like the certain choices that get made here. Like I'm like I just feel like that is not gonna like people would not enjoy it. Like that's where they would check out. They would agree with all the stuff that's like, oh yeah, making fun of the no maskers or whatever. And then at a certain point in the film when it seems like, and maybe you can, although again you're a week and a half out from when you watched it.
Mhm.
But when I watched it like the 2 days ago, and this is part of why I also thought it was just we're jumping the shark a little bit here at the end just to create like more action in the film
Mhm.
that I don't think needed to be there. But we have the whole like Antifa-esque group that comes into town and is like trying to just take out the sheriff there.
Yeah.
And so then it's you can see a perspective where it's like, oh, so in the Sheriff Joe's mind, the idea that there is this conspiracy of like agitators that'll go around and create riots and cause trouble.
I
Like
think it's
that
supposed to be
does exist.
satirical. Yeah, I think the idea is that everybody's warning about this entity, this incredibly left Antifa terrorist organization. And so, like, at the time, all these towns were preparing for backlash, all these, like, small town sheriffs and, corrupt cops were using this as sort of what's a straw man to kind of build up and like attack here and say that this is like the problem with the left.
Hmm.
And I think the point is, look at how ridiculous this is. This isn't happening everywhere. Like, we would know if this was a real thing. Like, look at the extent to which what you're saying is true would do if it was indeed true.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. That's the part that felt like it was put in there not to further any commentary or stuff like that. I don't even think, maybe it was, but I don't even think it was about that. Of like, look at how absurd this would be if it were actually the case. I just think it was like, oh, I want to have a big shootout in the town,
I think it
and
was
so this
for the
is
character arc
what
of
he
Joe
went for.
Cross.
But what was the arc there? Because again, because they sort of show up out of nowhere to him, like they're masked men to him entirely. He's not even, I mean, he sees that one video, like he's scrolling through and he sees a video of them in Portland, I think it was, of like that group, and they're saying, oh, they're, Antifa's coming to town and destroying it. But it's not like he was even, as a result of that, like, oh, we got to prepare for this and that. He was focused entirely on the cover up of killing the mayor at that point. So to me, it didn't even further like his character and how he's, again, like his life had been ruined and now he's trying to just cover it all up, and how, again, the obsession with the politics and not being able to listen to people, all of that just escalated to him, taking it all out violently. Like I can see that. I can see what Ari Aster trying to say there, but I don't know, that whole final sequence, well made from a filmmaking standpoint, but I was just uninterested in it. I was like, I don't get why we're relying on this as like the big climax, when the rest of it, again, that early portion did seem to be like, okay, we're depicting the craziness of COVID times, but at least it's grounded in what, was actually happening. Whereas this, I just think took it to a level that it just wasn't there. It didn't have as much bearing on real life, and therefore couldn't be, more of a mirror to society like the rest of it was. So
Yeah. I think for me, a lot of it is he, sees himself as this ideal American guy who is projecting American standards. He's a straight shooter. He's for the people. He's not a virtue signaler. He is not trying to, like, in his mind, he's not trying to be like a prop or anything. He just wants to have the town be the way he wants it to be. He wants it to exist in his reality. And so he's the sheriff and he's like, the big man on the streets. And I think he gets that moment of the shootout to kind of like fulfill that manifestation in his mind and to live out that action hero role and to fulfill it. And then in the end, he gets stabbed in the head.
true, but he was like
And he
terrified that entire time. It's not like he
Yeah.
was like, oh,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe once he emerged and he was shooting the big
He's not
machine
like
gun thing.
he's not like a bad, he's still like a real guy. He's still,
Yeah.
he's still doing these things, but he's a real man who's like experiencing fear. But to me, the ironic twist is that he gets stabbed in the head and he becomes mentally handicapped and disabled as a result of that injury, and he gets turned into a political prop
Mm-hmm.
for the use of his mother-in-law to now basically run Eddington, and so he becomes a thing he didn't want to be, and Eddington is becoming distant from him because he has no say in anything. His wife is gone, which isn't what he wanted. He's the mayor, which is what he wanted, but he's not really doing anything. He's quite literally a physical prop at the end of the movie to carry out other people's wills. The same guy who was helping Pedro Pascal run his campaign and then get because at the end of the day, Pedro Pascal is trying to get that big structure built that was going to destroy parts of the land, and Pedro or what's his name, Joaquin Phoenix, Joe Cross that is one of the points of contention is he's battling him about it. He's trying to say that this is a bad thing. He's trying to make shady deals to get this thing done, and at the end of it, he becomes a political prop, and it just happens anyway because that's what gives them money.
Yeah, well, and you can see that there. That sort of seems to be the big thing that Ari Aster is concerned about, is like the big tech, or they mentioned AI in this, but again, I don't know, like 2020 AI was as big of a scary entity as it is now. But that company, the data center gets put there. when Joe Cross is like leaving after he gets slapped by Ted Garcia, um, you see that guy like looking at him like all happy because he's like, oh, this is man that's about to snap. And then I don't think anything's actually said about it, but I think the implication is like whatever that Antifa group is that's getting flown around on private jets, like they got called in by that businessman, so that all the attention can go to this absurdity and will be a distraction from big tech coming in and placing data centers and all that.
Yeah.
Which isn't a critique I disagree with. Like that's definitely part of it. Like that's the whole culture war thing is everyone's getting bogged down in these stupid debates that on the grand scheme of things don't matter. And then more and more of the power is being centralized in people with a whole lot of money and influence. That, you know, like, yes, that makes sense for sure. But what I did like in the beginning was seeing how these people get caught up in those culture war elements. Like Joe Cross probably does have a legitimate, you know, belief against wearing masks and whatnot, but there's just this clear like insecurity he has around the mayor and around like his home life not being the best. That is why he impulsively makes the decision to become mayor. And we see a couple times, again, it's like smart, clever stuff there where every time he's about to make a post, he's like, don't let me think about it. Just post it. Just do it. Stuff like that, where he's like literally not thinking, just what can I do right away to get engagement or get attention, even at the expense of like consulting with his wife about running for mayor or using his wife as a political prop in accusing Ted Garcia of like sexual assault and everything. So like, I think that stuff was like, that's what I was more interested in even the commentary about like the big tech stuff, like that I would be more interested in as well. I just didn't like that most of that I think got wrapped up in this big climactic shootout finale with, again, these like unnamed random Antifa agitators. So I don't know, that part didn't work for me. But yeah, Dylan, who would you vote for, Joe Cross or Ted Garcia?
Begrudgingly Ted Garcia.
Pedro Pascal, huh?
Still not his biggest fan, but I think he's better for the town. Joe Cross is just unfortunately despicable, you know? Like I pity him so much. Because I think he genuinely thinks he's doing good, but he's just damaging on top of damaging on top of damaging. And he's just so insecure.
Yeah.
And so I do just feel like a strong amount of pity for him. Joaquin Phoenix plays the role really, really well.
He
just
does.
such pity for him as a man. It's just so.
What are some of your favorite pot shots I got taken against each side?
I love the whole plot line of the virtue signaling kids who are like just aligning themselves with the liberal left to hit on this girl who's like extremely leftist, and the scene where the one white kid is like explaining to his parents about why he has to be like
That's
anti-racist.
The best one.
It's so funny. And the dad's like, "You fucking idiot."
You're white. He just says that, and then guns all up on the back wall there. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's and then my favorite twist on that is the very end when he like has to shoot the guy to defend the town, and he immediately becomes like a right wing podcaster.
That I thought was hilarious.
So fucking funny.
They had like a Photoshop thing of him with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes, dude,
that was hilarious.
So good. That commentary is fantastic. If you don't think that the shootout is like worthy in the grand scheme of things, it at least
that part was
lays out that
I was like,
very well,
because literally in my head I'm like none of this works, I don't like this, and then that whole sequence I was like, okay, like that's pretty fantastic.
It's great.
He comes in to be the savior and then gets like all this acclaim. So yeah, that part of it too, of like grifting obviously, but even before that, before he had like the opportunity to make money and all this, where he was just doing it selfishly to try and get the attention of this girl. That makes sense. But then even beyond that, like people wanting to be part of a community or not wanting to be ostracized, stuff like that. I think that subplot, had he gone more into that element, I think could have been interesting. Another one of the great moments of the film was on the private jet, seeing the Antifa agitators, and we just zoom in on like this guy's bandana, which is entirely black, and then we zoom out and it's the black square that was on social media
Yes.
for the George Floyd thing. So stuff like that I think is interesting. He touches on how some people will be pressured or compelled, whatever you want to say for it, but some of the motivation for this stuff may not be because of political enlightenment, but it may be because they want to fit in, or they want to be saying the right things, being seen as saying the right things. So I liked that whole subplot they had there. I wish it would have gone further into that. And obviously, if the film didn't have that, switch midway through, it probably would have had more time for it.
Sure.
But again, that's just me wanting a different film than what we got. Which,
Sorry.
yeah, is Ari Aster made the film he wanted. So,
and it's great
for him.
I found it very entertaining.
But yeah, so I thought that was great. The stuff like later when he's making that speech about, he's like, I will soon sit down and listen because I'm a white kid. I shouldn't even be up here speaking, making this speech. Yeah. And by the way, this is on stolen land. Like he's saying all the virtue signaling things
at the wake or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dude, it's so good. His plotline is great. It's so fucking funny.
So again, but that's why I was wondering. I'm like, because I do think that stuff's ridiculous. That stuff does annoy me. So I'm like, is this effective? Like, I find it funny. I'm laughing at it. Is this enjoyable because I agree with this? Or if I were someone else that was, more adopting of like all those viewpoints, would I be like, oh, that's a misrepresentation of what we think and they don't get this, and like, oh, this is like diminishing the fact that we're trying to fight white supremacy and we're trying to be anti-racist and all this. That's what I'm wondering, because it's like,
I think there has to be an acknowledgement of like a certain base in politics on both sides that truly does not actually care about political beliefs and is simply virtue signaling on both sides just to get attention in some way or another.
True.
Because the commentary is that this kid then just very easily switches sides because that is the side that's now giving him attention and is very happily like a right-wing commentator.
Which makes sense for him, but for the girl that he's like after, where there's nothing that leads us to believe that she's like doing it for false reasons. Like she's not doing it to get the attention of a boy or whatever. It seems like she truly believes it. But everything that she's depicted as is like, oh, she's just like over the top with it and saying all this stuff. Again, like her being like, I can't even be anti-racist, but I'm trying to be. I'm starting, like, we can only start from this point of view and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, she's like silly, basically. Like that's how it was coming off to me. Like that was the way that she was being portrayed.
Counterintuitive, honestly.
Which, again, that's why I'm asking. Because, again, I think, because there are people that are like her there. And I think ultimately, yeah, it is a bit silly.
I think she's still doing this. I would still consider it virtue signaling. Even though, like, I'm not saying it's virtue signaling in the sense that she's doing it for attention, which, I mean, she could be doing it for attention. The film doesn't really highlight that portion of it. I think she's doing things that are noticeable that ultimately enact no change whatsoever. I mean, she's trying to do a political protest, but there are very clearly like rioting going on in the background, and they are blocking streets, and they're just like trying to incite anger without actually making a statement, and so it doesn't ultimately do anything.
Compelling.
Which I think is just another version of virtue signaling.
Maybe, I don't know. I think going out and doing demonstrations can be good, like that compared to the social media stuff.
I don't think their demonstration
activism and whatnot
did anything.
But she was like, "Oh, we should be at Santa Fe where there's going to be more people."
Okay,
instead we're here. At
right. She does say that.
She was the one that like planned it here to try and impress her.
Yeah, you're right.
Makes sense. But I'm saying like the content of what she's saying, because again, like her actual view on like we should be anti-racist, and it's like yes, true. But the way that she goes about it, of like the white guilt element to it, and like we like again, like we shouldn't even be speaking, we shouldn't even have, like, we need to sit down and listen, all that stuff, again, I think is a little absurd.
I think this,
because I think that's why I'm like, oh, this is an effective part of the film for me, because it's observing something that I also observe, that also grinds my gears. And I imagine it's the same thing for Ari Aster, where it's like, oh, because you guys are so over the top and silly, like the virtue signaling you're doing will work maybe for other leftists and whatnot, but like people like your average like trucker dad is not going to care about literally like what the parents say to the kid when he's trying to explain to them
I think
the whole concept of whiteness and
they're
whatnot.
going to like understand the satire and laugh at it. They're maybe not going to, because they're going to agree with you and I in saying that that is too far, perhaps for the wrong reasons. We would argue that what they're saying is too far because obviously it is like a ridiculous stance to take on what is technically a right answer, you know,
Hmm.
and someone who's far right might not even think it's the right answer. So perhaps we disagree on why it's satirical, but the result is the same. They're going to think that it's there to be funny and there to like make commentary as opposed to like being a serious opinion that like a character is having in the movie. In the same way that we think a lot of what Joe Cross does is satirical because we just think it's wrong. And other people who are right wing but maybe not far right might think it's satirical because it's over the top, but might still see a lot of what Joe Cross does as like being grounded, like fighting for people to be able to go into shopping markets without a mask. They might agree with him on that, but then they might see him do like these crazy TikTok things where he is making claims about his wife and stuff and think that that is satirical and like feeding into conspiracy theories that they don't agree with, but then still be like, but I would agree with the COVID mask thing, which you and I don't, you know?
Right. Yeah, and the stuff with his family as well, like the mom is
Mm.
conspiratorial. Even
Mhm.
the wife as well is like getting sucked into this
Yeah. The whole
Austin
Austin
Butler.
Butler thing is crazy. Yeah.
But that was excellent as well because again, it touches on like
His scene made
why
me so uncomfortable.
it was very comfortable, but it was very effectively done. Like his first meeting, there's a lot of like long extended takes in Eddington. I think they're all used like beautifully. That
Mhm.
first encounter with Austin Butler's character, like when Joe Cross meets him, is wonderfully done.
Yeah.
But I like that whole sequence at that dinner table though, because it speaks to why people fall into again what we can see is like it is crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But like, why do people fall into that? There's some need that they have
Yeah.
that
It
isn't
feels
being met, and clearly there's some trauma there in her past. Her mom, that she tried to like express it to, flat out denies all that. Right? She's saying like, "Oh, it was Ted Garcia, not the father, that did this."
mhm.
And then Joe Cross, at the first opportunity when he finds out about this, goes and uses it maliciously and like lies about it, uses her as a prop. So we see that she is like being brought in to these people that seem very caring and understanding of her, whereas the other two people around her, her family, like aren't able to understand those needs or care about them. And so that's why she like falls into this. And she, seems happy now. She's pregnant at the end with Austin Butler. So you see how people can fall into that, and then seemingly their lives improve. But obviously, to everyone else on the outside looking in, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
they've like lost it. Like, so
Yeah.
it's that part I thought was interesting and compelling, and I wanted more of that, more of like why, and all the insanity of the internet, which everyone to some level is susceptible to for sure. But why do some people like fall down those pipelines and get lost there? I think that the shades of touching on that we get are so compelling. And
Mhm.
those were the parts of the film that worked best for me for sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, any other thoughts on like commentary that Eddington was making or observations about 2020, either the pandemic or George Floyd, the Black Lives Matter protests, anything like that?
I think it's a good example of how like the presence of the internet in our modern day life is taking people and turning them from being people into being shells for information of just spewing factoids and points and not actually listening to one another and not being empathetic in any way. And I think Joe Cross starts the story as being a guy who just wants to be a real person and like take care of one another. And he obviously has opinions that a lot of people don't agree with. He tries to fight for people to not have to wear masks and he wants things to just be normal because he doesn't think it's a big deal. But he's not like a full conspiracy theorist. He's just a guy who has some right wing opinions, but he's a little bit more of a traditionalist. And then as he gets into this political campaign, and he becomes more embroiled with the internet. He's into that doom scrolling where he's reading facts about himself and posts about himself and posts about Ted Garcia. He gets into conspiracy theories about his wife and Ted Garcia. He gets into the whole George Floyd incident becomes more and more prevalent and protests start happening, and he starts leading more into his political campaign and posting things and becoming more and more embroiled in the internet. I think to me that is him kind of getting lost in that environment and losing his ability to be empathetic to other people and turning more into like this caricature of a human being who's just spewing talking points and fighting for things that he doesn't even believe anymore. And, he starts killing people because he becomes so agitated and frustrated. And he starts he starts to frame people that he actually cares about, that he said he would do things for. He loses his wife. He just gets pushed to the brink of things. And then I think the presence of the Antifa, soldiers at the end who are fighting him is sort of the boiling point for him and his relationship to the internet, and how it is like fully leaning into those conspiracy theories and giving him complete credibility in that sense, whereas, like no other movie is going to do that, because no other movie is going to say that this stuff is real, because it's not real. But they're giving him that opportunity to try and be that hero, and ultimately he just gets stabbed in the head and turned into a prop to ultimately do what the movie was trying to do in the beginning, which is build a tech center. That's all it's really been about. And so, like, regardless of the social wars that are happening, regardless of the political affiliations that people have or who is in political power, those who have the real power still get what they want in the end of things, because people are props in the internet. People are shells. People are not people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's good commentary.
Agreed. I think that part of it worked well. I just wish, I don't know, we focus more on the deterioration of like Eddington, the town itself, without all that other the whole like Antifa subplot thing coming to a head, or the assassination stuff like that too. Like again,
we didn't talk about Ted Garcia getting killed or his son. Did you think that was a step too far, too soon?
I did. Again, well, once it happened, I'm like, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
But then again, it shifted away from being about like the political satire of it, and then became him just doing a cover up. And there's some shades of it in there still, but I was like, okay, again, this becomes a different movie than what I was initially planning for, and what that first half was priming me for. But again, a well done scene, like seeing the muzzle flash in the distance, and then Ted Garcia getting shot, and then his son as well, which was brutal. Again, all that stuff was very well done from a filmmaking standpoint. And like I get it again, like he got slapped, he was disrespected. Then he goes. This is the other element we didn't really talk about of that
the homeless man
that
was clearly spreading COVID-19 everywhere, coughing on everything.
Or
he gives Joe Cross COVID-19, who is like dying after the assassination. He's like fully flu ridden.
So that part is compelling because again, it's all these people caught up in their own stuff. We see with Joe Cross, like he throws a water bottle at him at one point. Another point, the video of him trying to like get him out of the bar that Ted Garcia was in during the mayor's meeting gets used as a showcase of police brutality in Eddington. So like very critical to the plot per se of like how everything is going down in Eddington. But he is there and gets shot immediately, which is another example of like he's not seen as a person by anyone really in Eddington. He's just sort of he's
a walking persona of like the political state of 2020 and that summer of 2020, just walking around. He's spewing nonsense and he's angry at everybody. And he doesn't give a fuck about anything. Yeah, he's spewing disease everywhere, quite literally, and he's causing trouble. No matter where he goes, he's like the walking manifestation of what was wrong with our political landscape at the time, and still kind of is. Just an absolute like nothing, just screaming and not caring about anything else and ruining things for other people. Which in like Joe Cross, he gives him a water bottle, just fucking throws it away, so he doesn't want it. Joe Cross has to remove him from the bar because he like breaks in, and that's turned into police brutality. Which, I mean, I wouldn't call it police brutality. I mean, I think maybe some could make the argument, but I do believe that he was a danger in the situation and was causing like a disruption. And
well, either way, the video is clearly manipulated so that it doesn't show the ending even of like Joe Cross loses that, like the guy gets away.
It
after
doesn't show the
like
beginning
treating him well.
where the homeless man. It only shows Joe Cross like grabbing him and
Yeah, it
throwing
only
him to the
shows
ground.
that part, which again is just showcasing that like on the internet, like anything can be clipped out to
Yeah,
what the person wants you to see and wants you to take
absolutely.
away from it rather than what the full reality of it might be. So, yeah, either way, it's like a smart commentary there because it wasn't intended
During
for
the
sure, like for him to be like brutalizing the guy randomly like that.
He
That
shows up
wasn't the
during one of the
intent.
protests and start when they're doing the moment of silence, and he just makes them all incredibly uncomfortable because they don't actually care about other people or this man who's clearly having like a mental health breakdown. They're just uncomfortable by his presence and like want to leave now.
Right.
I think he's
So
a
they're,
good
they're
addition
like,
to
go
the
away.
movie.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And you can take like various different interpretations on what he means and what he stands for. So again, I like your perspective there. Again, I like the other idea of it's just again somebody, as you said, like clearly having uh, a mental health breakdown, having issues, and nobody really like tries to help him. So he's just like left wandering around doing whatever.
Then Joe Cross, who's just angry about everything, shows up and he just sees him breaking into the bar and drinking all the liquor. And I think he just has a moment of defeat of like, I offered you water, I tried to help you, and this is my town. And he just shoots him and kills him and dumps him in the river.
Uh, just yeah, an outburst of violence towards somebody that he was like, no one's gonna miss this guy, no one's gonna care, he's expendable. So yeah, I think like that was intense for sure, and then that led to him doing the same to Ted Garcia and Garcia's son. So
Mm.
just a wild flip there. But yeah, another element that I thought was compelling, would have liked more of a dive into it, was the black officer who
Mm.
there's like a thing that we see him like looking at the news, getting stunned by something, and then Joe Cross is like oblivious to it, like he hasn't seen the news yet about
It's George Floyd.
George Floyd. And the following day is when he comes in and he sees it on TV of like there's protests going on
Mm.
in Minneapolis and all that. And so then he's like, oh, what's going on here? And then he asks the officer, he's like, oh, did you know about this? And he was like, yeah, it was yesterday. Like it was everywhere. So I thought that was another compelling moment of like the blind spots people have. Like obviously Joe Cross is so caught up in his own stuff with the town and everything, and him being white, that news could totally miss him. Whereas for the black officer, that obviously became an immediate thing of concern, and then he's now caught between being a cop and having to in Eddington like stand there at these protests that are supposed to be about saving black people from terrible actions by police officers. So I thought that was an interesting thing to include. Also, when Joe Cross, I forget exactly everything he was saying there, but he was like yelling about like, be calm, we're going to figure this out. Let's let the people blow off steam. And Michael, are you okay? To the officer. So he was saying, he was like, at the beginning, he was like, these protests should happen. What happened there was terrible. And he wanted to check in on Michael, like his friend, his fellow officer, and a black man that's like having to reckon with what everyone else was reckoning with at that time.
Yeah.
From that video. So I thought that was again just a great showcase of like nuance there. And
I think genuinely Joe Cross is a person who does at the beginning of the movie care about other people. And I think he gets worn down by his presence on the internet, and he turns into this human being who just.
I think so. But I think you're over. I think it's less. I mean, the internet part of it is there, but he doesn't ever really adopt a bunch of stuff. Like it's the stuff going on within his own life, like his family.
It's related to him scrolling on the
Garcia.
internet constantly. It's related to him posting on the internet constantly. He like becomes embroiled in his beliefs because people will repost him on the internet and say, "We want to vote for you. We're proud of you. This is like the person who's fighting for us." And it like goes to his ego, into his head.
Yeah.
And
but even at the
it's less and less empathetic as the movie goes on.
That's for sure. But even at the protest, he is getting screamed all these things, but he never gets like ticked off about the like people yelling at him for being a cop and again, you suck and all this.
Yeah.
For being a cop. It's when Ted Garcia's son says something to him.
About his
That he
wife.
like
Yeah.
grabs him. Yeah, like something about his that Emma Stone had dated Pedro Pascal's character at some point. So he says something like that, and that's what makes him like grab his shirt. And then immediately everyone's obviously like, "Oh no, what's going on?" And he's like, "No, no." He grabs somebody's phone and was like, "It was a mistake. It was an accident." And I was like, "Oh god." Um, so I thought that part was really well done. But ultimately, yeah, I would have liked even more if they had gone into like, oh, it is the internet that's eroding him. I think we see more of the internet's effect on like the conspiracy mindset the mom has, and then Emma Stone getting like sucked into that parasocial relationship initially with Austin Butler's character, and then fully diving into when she meets him.
Mhm.
Um, with Joe Cross again, I think that's there, but again, that like second half of the film doesn't even really touch on that too much because it's all about the cover up, and then the Antifa stuff comes in, and we
Yeah.
get that one glimpse of him earlier looking at it, but he's not even the one that's like, oh, this is real, and the Antifa people are going to come around and agitate our town. Like, he never really is bringing that up too much.
Mhm. Yeah. I think the idea is that the internet enters the real world of Eddington in that second half of the movie as he becomes deeper and deeper embroiled, and he no longer has to look at it because now it is just in his world and in our world, and it just is very much present
Hmm.
and is taking over people's personalities and how they interact with one another. And my impression was that Ari Aster is trying to create like an environment where things are absolutely bizarre and wild in a way that it isn't quite like that in real life, but is reminiscent of what like the internet feels like to him if he were to take the internet and bring it into reality.
Hmm.
And then he's able to then spin that at the end of that massacre sequence to then nail home his point about political satire and political beliefs and being a prop and things like that.
Interesting.
It
Yeah.
works for me.
Again, it just didn't quite click for me, but that's okay. You know, everyone has their different takeaways. But this one is, again, it was a film that people either extremely click with it and they're like, yes, love this, amazing. Or I saw a lot of people that were heavily against it.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I'm not surprised. I wouldn't I understand why people don't like it. I understand why you don't get it. I understand why like it doesn't. Sorry, you get it. What I mean is, I understand why it doesn't work for you. I understand. I felt the same way about Bo is Afraid. I was like, I watched it and I was like, I really like this. I completely understand why people wouldn't like it. There's
yeah.
like, it's very very long, and there are bits where it does slow down, and there are bits where it's just very bizarre, and it's not like, uh, it doesn't quite make sense to me. A lot of his work is supposed to make you feel a feeling as opposed to like connect a plot point in a way that is satisfying or makes complete sense. And I think if you are able to like feel that feeling that he's trying to give, it'll work for you. And if you just don't feel that feeling, it just doesn't work, you know? And
Mhm.
that's how it goes. There are some filmmakers who are just like that, who are trying to evoke something in you, and some it will work for some people and it won't work for others. And they are willing to sacrifice like a whole satisfying plot in order to evoke that feeling with images and satire and sequences that don't might not quite fit. Like you and I both agreed that the second sequence in Beau is Afraid, where he's in the house, it just doesn't quite fit compared to the rest of it. It's like a little bit
Yeah.
off and doesn't quite stick the landing as much as the other sequences do. But it does reveal a lot about his character that benefits a lot later in, especially that third sequence where he's in the woods and he goes through that trippy 30-minute bit of going through the animated bit. I think it does do like a lot of that setting up, even though that's 40 minutes of the movie where it just wasn't working for either of us.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think he's just willing to make that sacrifice, and he's perfectly comfortable making the movie he wants to make, regardless of other people's feelings. And I respect it. I respect the hustle. I respect the originality, and I feel like I got the feeling he was trying to evoke.
Right. Yeah, I respect it too. I very much appreciate it. Again, I
Oh
like
yeah,
him wanting to go and make a film. Like, we're only 5 years removed from the start of it. Again, the
yeah.
pandemic was around for 3 years
Hmm.
until really we were able to start taking off the masks. But I mean, COVID's still around. Like, it'll always be around. I knew a couple people. like last month they got infected with COVID.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, I have not been infected with COVID, even to this day. But
You're a
again, I
winner.
totally could have been infected. But anytime that I've like tested for it when I was sick,
Hmm.
it never actually
Yeah.
came up as
I got it
COVID.
twice.
You got it twice.
I had
Dang.
it twice. I was not very good. I went to parties and stuff, but I did uh, uh, quarantine when I was tested positive for COVID. And
That's good.
anytime I was sick, I always tested. And anytime I tested positive, which was twice, I quarantined for whatever. The first time it was like 2 weeks, which was hell, and then the second time it was like way later on, and they said quarantine for like 6 days, I think. So
Mm,
I quarantined for that. That wasn't that bad. But dude, the 2 weeks was hell. Oh my god, being
wow.
stuck in doors for 2 straight weeks, it was so bad.
That is terrible for sure. So you're saying you're a sheep, huh? You listen to everything the CDC tells you. You get the jab too,
Yeah,
mRNA vaccine, which has never been tested. Blah blah blah. It's funny that the mom was still spouting out like because then they did a time skip. So it was a year later. So that was when the
mhm,
vaccines came out. So then
yeah.
all the talking points shifted to now the vaccine is terrible, and that'll be fun when it's
And she's saying that and spewing it to Joaquin Phoenix,
who
who
can he
has
can't
no ability to
respond,
like
doesn't care.
interact in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah, has no presence in the world anymore because he's just so far removed being disabled.
hmm but yeah,
He got to
so
be mayor
that's
though. He did get to be mayor in the end of the day.
he sure did. How great! And then he shares a bed with his stepmom, and then the ransom was
Not
that
his
like
stepmom,
a
his
nurse?
mother-in-law, which is
Oh, yeah,
worse.
his mother-in-law. You're right. And then
No, it's not the same.
the random nurse guy that
Yeah,
is
who's
also
clearly
attending
like
to him.
dating the mother-in-law.
Like that's crazy.
That shit is hilarious. It's just like the shittiest ending for him as a character that you could possibly imagine.
Yeah,
The shittiest way for him to be the mayor. It's so funny. He got what he wanted and look at the price that it cost him.
for sure, for sure.
It's great. Anyway,
Uh,
how many COVID masks out of 5 are you giving Eddington?
I'm giving it 3 out of 5.
It's more than I thought you'd give it based on the conversation, but hey, that's a respectable score. Slightly lower than Bo's Afraid, right? You give it 3.5?
I gave Bo like 2.5.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a little more than Bo.
Again, the first half of it, I was locked in. I was plugged in. I very
Yeah.
much enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think I also liked a little bit more than Bo. I gave Bo 3.5. I'm giving this one 4.
All right, there you go. Your highest of the year so far is a 4.
Yes, dude. We're not looking good so far this year. Everything below it is a 4 or lower, you know. Sinners is up there, it's a 4. Uh Phoenician Scheme is up there, it's still a 4.
Dang. Yeah, we'll have
Friendship
to
is a
see.
4.
But a 4 out of 5 is good enough for, top 10, like bottom of the top 10 or
Yeah, it's
honorable
possible.
mentions. So,
There's just a lot on my list that I'm hoping that I will be able to get to before we do that top 10, that I'm hoping I can watch them all. And there are like a lot of hopefuls on there that I think will crack that top 10. And we remember last year we pushed the top 10 because so many movies came out late. And then I had 3 or 4 movies that ended up being on my top 10 that wouldn't have been there had we recorded it like 2 weeks earlier.
right. Yeah, we need movies to come out within the year,
Just come out in
please.
November, guys. If it's
Come on.
just give me like a limited release in November, please. I don't want to wait until March the next year. That's crazy. The Brutalist came out in like February, right, of this year.
Um,
To be seen in theaters.
I think it was
Or January, maybe.
December and then January. Like it was
That's
still in
still too
theaters.
late. That's still too late for a movie that could have
Maybe it was
like
very
almost
early
won Best
January.
Picture.
But yeah, that is craziness.
Let me see the movies, guys. Let me watch them. Okay, just
Agreed.
give it a
Agreed.
limited release, please.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Any other political things you want to throw out there for this before we wrap up?
No, I think
You don't want to go on the record for anything?
I got all my political talking points out. I think I've said my piece. I think
Mhm.
I hope I didn't say anything controversial.
You said that you were anti-mask, anti-vax. You thought
Mm.
I'm not gonna say. Um,
Stand
I
by.
was like the bit. This bit would just be too mean, too much.
someone's gonna clip it. And it's gonna be you saying it about yourself.
No, I said you
I'm
said
anti-vax.
you're anti-vax. You're anti-mask.
You're trying to make it look like I think Coolsville sucks.
You thought they were all rioters. You thought the country burned down.
Hey man, It's
Your viewership of Fox News went up dramatically.
it's currently still not looking good these days. You know, politically, we're not doing too hot right now.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm like, it's worrisome. That's
In 5 years, there's gonna be an Eddington about 2025. They visit Alligator Alcatraz.
oh Jesus, yeah,
God.
that'll be.
Yeah, I think I said my political piece. I think there's not much. Is there anything political you want to say before we bow out?
No. Again, I just think it's with things like this, like with Eddington, I just think it's interesting. I do think like a lot of people that were heavily negative against it, I think would be those that are like the easy targets of young leftist white people that are, you know, virtue signaling all the time, are like not really as big of an issue as people that, you know, again, even just the mask issue of like legitimately people like Joe Cross that is just sick. Like he definitely is sick and he's going around infecting everyone else at like the end of that movie.
He's fucking dying.
Just because he's like, oh, I don't want to listen to what other people tell me or mistrust in science or whatever it is. So I can see that, and I can see them being like, oh, other like terrible things that were going on. Like again, there are people to this day that think the 2020 election was stolen, like legitimately. That's insane. Like this country is not going to be able to function if people can't agree on like the most basic things, and stuff like that is just insane. So Eddington does touch on like some of it with like the depiction of the internet, but you were saying like you liked how that was the big bad in this one. I think if it was the big bad, they should have gone even harder into like
perhaps
how algorithms and stuff like that are.
I think he really did want to also make like a solid Western story. I think that is why
that's what he was
I
interested
think
in.
that's where that one star kind of falls off on, is that I would agree that I think he found a hard time balancing the social commentary on the internet with the actual plot itself of trying to tell like a Western story between Ted Garcia and Joe Cross, of like these two guys running for mayor that are toe in toe with each other. I think there was a little bit of a disconnect there, but I still found it enjoyable. I think he nailed a lot of the social commentary, and to me, I felt the feelings he wanted me to feel. I felt uncomfortable when he wanted me to feel uncomfortable. I felt tense when he wanted me to feel tense, and to me, that works.
Yeah. So again, I like
you
it.
Hated it.
I didn't hate it. I very much enjoyed it. I just wish. What I'm getting at, I guess, is like there's like how do we spend that other half of the movie going deeper on these things so that we could explore more of like what I think are the like ailments, the things that are causing all this like disease and division within the country. I think that maybe would have been a better use of our, the runtime to deliver more of that social commentary and flesh it out more.
Sure, yeah.
But again, he's a genre filmmaker. He wanted to have that Western thriller part of it at the end of it. So I can't like blame him for that. Again, it was well done. But yeah, that's just my concern there. So we'll see. Maybe Aaron Sorkin and The Social Network 2 will go ahead and deliver that part of it.
Where allegedly not Jesse Armstrong. Jesse Armstrong created
Jesse Eisenberg.
No. Jeremy Strong.
Yeah, Jeremy Strong
is supposedly in talks to play Mark Zuck since Jesse Eisenberg is not returned.
I wish Jesse Eisenberg would return, and also Fincher to direct it.
Yeah, me too.
Like it could be so goated. It would be so amazing.
It'd be interesting.
Come on.
Yeah.
But so we will see how more that goes, and we can.
Maybe Fincher's too busy making the Brad Pitt movie, the sequel to Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, because we need that. What social commentary is going to come out of that? How are we going to be able to depict and catalog
the having a good time
of American democracy?
He's out there making movies for Hollywood. He's just having a good old time. That's all the time we have. If you'd like to give your thoughts on the show, you can email us at theboxofashowpod@gmail.com.
Our main title theme for the show is by Joseph McDade. It's Sundown.
If you like the show, please give us 5 stars on our podcast that you're listening to, and be sure to tune in next week. Have a great rest of your day.